Thank you for calling Navy Federal Credit Union. How can I help you?
Hi, if I'm in the Army, not in the Navy, am I still eligible for membership?
Yes, you are.
What about my sister in the Air Force?
Her too.
And my dad's a Marine.
We serve all branches of the military, veterans, and their families.
My dog is a retired military working dog.
I'll see what I can do.
Find out if you're eligible at NavyFederal.org. Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. Insured by NCUA.
Get Macy's lowest prices of the season on everything you need for spring. Like 50 to 60% off suits, blazers, and pants from his favorite designers. Buy more, save more during the great shoe sale. Get 40% off 2 or more pairs, 30% off 1 pair. And get 30 to 70% off fine jewelry during our diamond sale. Plus, download the free Macy's app today for even more lowest prices of the season. Savings off sale and clearance prices, exclusions apply.
Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson. Here on Wednesday morning, it's about a little after 10 o'clock here. Got home late, got up early, so here we are. You never know, I might take a nap this afternoon because I'm about that life. It's what middle-aged and being on the road, living on nicotine and caffeine will do for you. But glad to be with you today. Hope you're doing well this week. And it's a big weekend coming up. It's Super Bulldog Weekend. It's going to be record crowds here. We're going to talk a little bit about that later in the show. Bulldogs, of course, take care of UAB last night. Expected that. Expected to be a competitive ball game. If you listen to this show, I told you, hey, they were 10-21, but they've been competitive in just about every game here as of late. Casey Dunn's a good coach. That guy knows how to manage the game. They did a really good job kind of keeping the game in place for a while, too. They just don't have the talent. But, he had a good run at Samford, so you expect UAB to get better here in the years to come. Obviously, a very recruiting footprint there. And with all the amenities and degree programs that UAB offer, it's an attractive place to go to school. Not a great place to go play college baseball. All due respect to the fine folks at UAB, we got some junior college stadiums here in Mississippi that are bigger than what they have at UAB. So they're going to have to commit to that. They did put in some new turf this year. Looks great. They debuted it against Notre Dame. Played their opening series of the year against Murray State out at Regions. But it was good to be over there. Happy to see some Bulldogs, a lot of Bulldogs over there I'd never met before. And, I'm kind of back and forth at times getting things done. And I appreciate those of you that say hello. Big weekend coming up. It was a big night last night in the Southeastern Conference as all 14 teams were in action. We'll kind of take a look and see who did what and how they did and kind of look ahead a little bit at the weekend. And we'll preview the weekend in full on the Friday show. But let me go ahead and give you some traveling advice. No matter how many times you have been to Starkville, no matter how well you know the lay of the land, you need to allot some extra time for yourself this weekend to save yourself and everybody that's traveling with you some frustration. Ladies, listen to me. I'm being your friend here. When he says we need to leave at 10:30, we need to leave at 10. And that means you need to be ready to go at 9:50. And that means everything packed up in the car. That means on the road at 10. I know he's going to say, I don't worry about 10:30. No. He won't tell you the truth. I'm telling you the truth now. You need to be ready to go. Now, gentlemen, I'm being your friend here as well. Do not leave at your normal time and expect to arrive at your normal time. It's not going to happen. I'm just telling you right now, before you even get in the vehicle to make that drive to Starkville, it's going to be packed. We don't have a lot of streets around here. We don't have a lot of thoroughfares to get you to campus. And they're all going to be overrun with Bulldog fans and a few Rebels that want to be a part of Super Bulldog Weekend. Leave early. Allow yourself more time. Bring some snacks. Have a good time. But don't ruin your own time by being tardy. And the kids, some of you listen to this show. You listen to it with your family, your whatever. This is not the weekend to act up and be difficult. Everybody, including your parents, are going to be stressed. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be some big crowds here. The lines are going to be long, and there's going to be a lot of sighing, a lot of exasperation. Oh, I can't believe this. No, well, believe it. We're going to have record crowds in town this weekend for baseball. So don't think you're just going to show up and just go through the motions and everybody, oh, it's no big deal. No, it's going to be a big deal. Parking's going to be absolutely a disaster. I'd encourage you to park and walk if you can. It's going to be busy. And I'm not even going to the concert. Many of you are. You can't wait for it. And I'm glad they're doing this. This was the brainchild of one Red Hobart, who's now at Auburn, but I will give Red credit for putting this thing together. We should do this all the time. I've said this for years. We should do a concert during Super Bulldog Weekend. Every year. I don't know that we shouldn't do two. Do one Friday night, do one Saturday night. I know we got to play baseball Friday night, but you understand my point. Maybe we could do a late night event somewhere in town. The city's got to be a willing partner, man. It's the truth. And while you're in town, please go out and frequent as many Starkville businesses as you can. These people, many of them are still kind of recovering from COVID. It seems like forever ago, but you and I both know it really wasn't. Spend some money, buy some food, get some souvenirs, spend some money on campus. Have a great time. But understand it's going to be very people-y in Stark Vegas this weekend. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company. Speaking of great places to go eat, get there early because everybody loves Bulldog Burger Company. It's become a regular stop for people traveling to Starkville and enjoying our game day activities. Go by and check them out when you're in town. There's 3 great locations to serve you. Maybe you stop at the Ridge and Flowwood one on your way in. Maybe you stop in Tupelo and enjoy Bulldog Burger Company there. They'll be happy. They'll be happy to accommodate you. 3 great locations to serve you as always. University Drive here in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. Go by, have the spring rolls as your appetizer. They will make you and everybody around you better looking. We all need more of that. That's why I've been able to maintain this youthful exuberance and this wonderful face. Or the spring rolls. That and a very, very, very moderate skincare routine, which is nothing, right? Get that chocolate shake to go. You'll be glad you did. Be sure and find your own favorites. I kind of go in cycles. Like sometimes I just can't get enough of those sloppy Joe sliders. Sometimes I want the onion rings. Other times I want the French fries. Sometimes I want a side salad. Sometimes I even get my hamburger without a bun. Just depending on how things are going, right? You can kind of get it your way. Have the Bryant, have the Lauren. I'm still kind of partial to the Freshman 15 too. That was I think the second burger I ever got at Bulldog Burger Company was the Freshman 15. It's outstanding. Live a little bit. Get out on the wild side. Enjoy life. Bulldog Burger Company. The place where people go to meet. MEAT. All right, let's get into this recap of this ball game. As you guys know, listen, we expect to win these games. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and hype up UAB. I mean, they're a 10-22 team. And they got swept over the weekend by Dallas Baptist. But as I shared, they've been competitive. And they were competitive last night. Tip of the cap to them. They don't have a ton of talent. They do have a few guys there that can swing it a little bit. But Bulldogs come out there and get on them early. It was good to see us kind of get out of the gates, right? So they walk Amani Larry. And live stats for this was basically there was not really any stats. What I mean by that is they didn't keep up with pitch counts, that sort of stuff. But Amani Larry walks and then still second. And it was close play there, but he was clearly in. And then Ledbetter singles to right field. Moves Larry around the third. Runners on the corners already. So Bulldogs are already cooking here in the first inning. Ledbetter immediately still second. They don't even attempt to throw there. Hines strikes out swinging. Hunter had a tough night at the plate last night for the most part. And then DJ comes through. The kid is just red hot. Still barreling the ball up. Hits a home run to deep center field. It is 3-0 Bulldogs. Now, one of the things that we have talked about, and I've been critical about, is the developmental piece of our players. And we go out and we sign guys, and people say, well, who gets better, who gets better? When you see what Dakota Jordan has done over the course of the last month, it's rather remarkable. There's a reason that he was hitting 3-hole to start the season. And then people realized they couldn't throw him a fastball, right? So we got to throw him spin because he can't recognize spin. You can tell that Jake Gautreau has worked extensively with DJ, and DJ has accepted coaching because you're seeing it on the field. This kid's going to be a star. Going to be a star. Right behind him, Luke Hancock, back-to-back jacks. Solo shot to right center. The power numbers for Luke have been down a little bit this year, and we talked, and Colton even tweeted at me about it. He'd been rolling over the baseball. He still rolled over a little bit last night, but he was able last night in that first inning to kind of get something that he could elevate. And it ends up disappearing beyond the fence, makes it a 4-0 lead for the Bulldogs. Wasn't long after that, somebody at UAB turned to me and said, hey, just so you know, there is a 10-run rule after 7. Not that you needed it, but I did tweet that out. Slade Alford and Kay swinging, and Kellum Clark hammers a double to center field. Bryce Chance back in lineup again, flies out to center, nearly poked that ball out of the yard too. But 4-0 for State. Nice running start for Parker Stinnett, gives him a little margin for error, and we nearly needed it. Leadoff walk to Braunschweig, who is their best hitter, and then Waugh singles, but he hits Braunschweig with the baseball. That's interference. Goes in the book officially as a put out for the second baseman. Just kind of a bad luck deal for UAB because that ball was headed to right field easily. They had runners at first and third. Instead, it's a runner at first and one down. Then we walk Hall, and then Brown reaches on a fielder's choice. Nice play here by Lane Forsythe. And Lane has been so up and down as of late, but he's made this play a couple times. It's a ground ball to his right, and his momentum has taken him to third, so he forces a runner at third. 2 out in the inning, and then Max strikes out swinging. Top of second, Bulldogs go right back to work. The aforementioned Lane Forsythe singles right back up the middle. Then Amani Larry grounds out, and out there, it looks like it's going to be at least a fielder's choice where they retire the runner at second, but instead the ball is loose. Error on the shortstop. And now, again, you think we're fixing to go ahead and put some distance between us and UAB. Well, we did. Runners on the corners. Ledbetter pops up to short. And then Larry is thrown out stealing. You don't see that every day. And then Hunter Hines fouls out outside of first. So a very promising inning here. Kind of goes with a whimper. A pop-up, a caught stealing, and a foul out. Didn't even really get the ball out of the infield. Despite the fact we had another runner at third. And those are the kind of situations you look back, even in a game like this, and say, you know what, we at least got to get that one run home. You can't keep leaving ducks on the pond. You get a runner to third with nobody out, you got to find a way to get him home. All right, bottom of second, Stinnett goes right back out there, and we walk Mullins, and then we walk Holyfield. And this is the 6 and 7 hitters. And then you think we're about to be in trouble. We get deep into another count, and Abernathy then grounds into double play. Nice play here by Slade Alford to turn it, and it began the double play. It ends up being a 5-4-3 double play, and then Lewis grounds out a little nubber right out there in front of the plate. And so, again, we kind of work our way into some trouble, and defense bails us out there. So Bulldogs playing pretty good defense early in the ball game. Top of 3, Dakota Jordan pops up to the second baseman. They walk Hancock. Alford nearly hits it out. That happened almost, I think, 2 or 3 times last night. Hard hit balls to center field, just didn't have quite enough carry. Slate 10 more push-ups, those are home runs. And then Kellum Clark strikes out swinging. So we strand the one runner. Okay, Evan Sierra comes in the bottom of third, and I at this point I kind of relaxed a little bit because Parker had been all over the place. He really struggled to throw strikes, and I said, okay, Sierra will be here. He did not do a good job missing bats here. Braunschweig, second time through the order, singles right back up the middle, hit the ball really well, and then Waugh pops up to short. Okay, so we're a pitch of getting out of this thing, and then Hall homers to right field. Now all of a sudden it's a ball game. Brown singles to center, Mack flies out to center, and then Mullins strikes out swinging. So yeah, we navigate through that and still have a 2-run lead, but they had some very solid contact in that inning. Even the outs were loud. All right, top of 4. Now a 4-2 ball game. Bryce Chance singles back up the middle, and it's good to see Bryce in the lineup. And I think in many respects he's kind of situational. The way DJ is swinging it, Chance is probably not going to get out there a whole lot. Forsythe then strikes out swinging. Larry doubles down the line and left. Chance goes to third. And again, a chance for State to kind of blow this thing open. They make a pitching change here. Ledbetter rolls one over to the right side. The run scores, but he's out at first. Makes it a 5-2 ball game. And then Hunt strikes out looking. So again, runners at second and third here. Hey, Bulldog fans, if you were drafting a team, whether it be a college football program, your NFL franchise, a fantasy football or baseball draft, wouldn't it be great if you got all your top picks? That'd be amazing. Well, you can do just that when you run your own business. And if you're looking for people out there to come work for you, you can put a fantasy team together, thanks to our friends at Indeed. Indeed is a hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't waste hours of your precious time looking for candidates on multiple job sites. Find top talent with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching, assessments, and virtual interviews. How cool is that? Technology is wonderful. You hate waiting? I do. Indeed's U.S. data shows that over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. How cool is that? I run my own business too, and I can tell you this. It's nice to be able to work with Indeed and be sure that you can get people that match exactly what you want. And here's the thing too, you can even invite candidates to apply for your job. You can reach out to them through the Indeed system, and people that you reach out through on the Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply for your job than candidates who are just kind of browsing through there. You can be aggressive on Indeed. And here's what you need to know. They understand you're a growing business and you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/boneyard to stop hiring right now. Just go to Indeed.com/boneyard. Go ahead and find your fantasy draft. Indeed.com/boneyard. Some terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everybody, but you need to hire. You need Indeed.
Get Macy's lowest prices of the season on everything you need for spring, like 50 to 60% off suits, blazers, and pants from his favorite designers. Buy more, save more during the Great Shoe Sale. Get 40% off 2 or more pairs, 30% off 1 pair. And get 30 to 70% off fine jewelry during our Diamond Sale. Plus, download the free Macy's app today for even more lowest prices of the season. Savings off sale and clearance prices, exclusions apply.
With less than 2 outs and you just get the 1 run, at least we got the 1. But you'd like to think, hey, when 2 and 3's coming up, we ought to be able to get a base hit. We don't. All right, bottom of 4. Holyfield opens off Sierra with a single to right center. Abernathy then gets it there on a fielder's choice. Fielding error by the shortstop here. One of those things that happens, man. I mean, it's like here, we got, again, a chance for us to record an out, maybe 2. We don't. Lewis lays down a sac bunt here. You move the runners along, and you're thinking, okay, we're going to be in trouble. Now they have 2 runners in scoring position with less than 2 outs. And Brunswick steps up and hits the sac fly RBI. Drives in a run, makes it a 5-3 ball game. Waugh then grounds out to second base. And so it's like we got some separation in the top half of the 4th, and we give it right back. All right, top of 5th. They make another pitching change. They bring in this Colin Daniel kid who was really good against us. The slider has a lot of depth. And so we're swinging over the top. Kind of got a late break to it. But Jordan strikes out swinging. Hancock taps it back to the mound. They retire him at first. And then Alford flies out to center again, nearly gets it out of there. And this this is a stretch here, too, where they retired, I think, 8 in a row. We're in the middle of that now. Bottom of 5, Brock Tapper comes in. Outstanding effort from Brock. Hall lines out to right. Brown lines out to left. And Mack strikes out swinging. We knew Mack had some swing and miss in his game. We were able to take advantage of that. All right, top of 6. State 3 more. Yep, 1, 2, 3 here. Clark strikes out swinging, and they have to throw him out at first. Chance grounds out to second. Forsythe grounds out to second. And give it to Colin. He's rolling here. getting under barrels, having us beat the ball on the ground. We're just not able to get solid contact against him. And, we eventually do get to him, but, man, it took a while. And that's what a reliever is supposed to do, right, is hold the game in place. Slow the game down, give your offense a chance to catch up. That's what he did. Tip of the cap to him. Our bottom of 6, Tyson Harden comes in. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little bit nervous. I was, because Tyson's been so up and down. He was good last week against Grambling, but, of course, he had really bad outings against Kentucky and Vanderbilt, allowing 11 earned runs in those 2 appearances. And, of course, he's kind of mopping up there. And he told me in postgame, there's an article you can read on Gene's page, where he talks about they've been working on changing his arm slot a little bit and throwing a sinker. His last 2 outings have been really good. This is the best outing he's had in a Bulldog uniform. Mullins flies out to left. He gets Hollyfield to strike out looking, and then Abernathy lays down a 2-out bunt. Everybody's playing big infield right here with 2 outs. And he gets the bunt down, really no play to be made, and then they decide to steal, and Luke guns him down. We've been a lot better against the run as of late, too. Maybe you've noticed. There was a time earlier this year that anybody that got to first basically got second as a gift. All right, top of 7. State goes back to work here. Larry flies out to center, and then Ledbetter, man, they just couldn't finish Colton. Just couldn't do it. It's slider. Count goes full. Eventually, he sits on the slider. They drop it to him. He gets down on his legs, lifts it over the right field wall. Now it's a 6-3 ball game. And that's when they pull Colin Daniel. Hines then pops up to first. They walk DJ. Hancock's hit by the pitch. We've got a bit of a 2-out rally going here. They went ahead and made the change here and bring in Harris. And Slate flies out to center. Another long fly ball. This one not quite as deep as the others, but Slate's seeing it pretty well. Not a lot to show for it in the box score, but he hit the ball really hard, barreled up some balls last night, which is still encouraging to see after the week he's had. All right, bottom of 7, Harden goes right back out there and goes right back to work. Gets a 9-hole hitter, Lewis, to strike out looking. Gets Braunschweig to ground out to second, and then Wah. Nice play here by Hunter Hines. Has to range off the bag and then toss back to Harden. Really good defense here. 1-2-3 inning for Harden. And you almost begin to ask yourself, do you send him back out there for the 8th? As good as he'd been. All right, top of 8, State tacks on here again. Kellum Clark flies out to left. Nearly poked that ball up against the wall, too. That's the thing. When you're big and strong like Kellum Clark is, you have the ability to do that. A lot of people, when they hit the ball the other way, it's just kind of a bleeder. Not Kellum. Kellum has some oppo power. Bryce Chance then walks, and then Forsythe singles to center field. And then they are getting ready to throw the ball in. They misplay the cutoff, and everybody moves up a base. So here we are, runners at second, third, less than 2 outs. Got to get a run home. Amani Larry hits a ground ball, allows Chance to score. It's now a 7-3 game. Ledbetter then pops up to short. Got to get Colton going. I know we had the home run last night. We got to get him going again. That's the thing about managing a baseball team. Nobody's ever hot at the same time. You just kind of manage all that, right? All right, bottom of 8, we bring in Aaron Nixon. Best outing in the Bulldog uniform. And listen, I get it. Well, Steve, it's UAB. Okay, yeah, right. I get that too. But our enemy has been the strike zone. And there have been times Nixon has, had a lot of hit by pitches, right? Really looked good last night. I thought we got to sit behind home plate in the press box. I thought the slider had a lot of bite to it. He gets hauled to ground out to first. Brown then lines out to center. And then Mack strikes out swinging. Tough night for Mack. 1-2-3 inning for Nixon. We go back out in the top of 9 here. Several defensive changes for the Blazers. But Hines singles through the right side. They had the shift on, and he hit the baseball so hard they still couldn't get it. Then he goes to second on a wild pitch. And really, I give Hines a lot of credit here. That ball didn't get far away. It's in the dirt. He had a good secondary, and you read it in the dirt. Takes off. It's actually a pretty close play, but he makes it. They walk DJ. So now all of a sudden you got runners on first and second with nobody out. You got to find a way to get a run home here. We don't. And listen, I don't think Luke Hancock has been asked to bunt in a couple of years, but as good as he is with the bat, I think I could probably teach him how to bunt. When they want to shift right, let's bunt it up at third baseline. He flies out to right here. It wasn't deep enough for us to tag in advance. Then Alford flies out to left. Hizek pinch hit for Clark, and he flies out too. So we get 2 men on with nobody out, and it's 3 consecutive flyouts. So 7-3 ball game here, going bottom of 9. Mullins, again against Nixon. Another nice play by Hunter Hines here. Nixon getting over to cover. Peyton Puckett from Tupelo, if I remember correctly. He pinch hits, strikes out swinging, and they bring in and pinch hit another guy, White, and he flies out to right field. And that's your ball game, 7-3. So, yeah, it wasn't sexy. We didn't go over there and 10-run rule those guys. But at no point did it ever feel like State was in jeopardy of losing this ball game. Now, there was obviously some anxiety when you put up 4 and then you go out there and you start walking guys. You start thinking it's going to be that kind of ball game. Turns out that it didn't. Bullpen actually did pretty well last night. I wrote an article about that too. But here's the reality of it. Let's look at our numbers here. Stinnett goes out there. Stinnett credited with the win because he was on a pitch count. That's kind of one of those anomalies in scoring. But 2 innings pitched for him allows just 1 hit, but 4 walks, and then a 1 strikeout. And granted, he's still not maybe 100% or in midseason form. My issue with Parker's always been is that this is kind of who he is. He's the kind of guy to go out there and walk the bases loaded and then strike out the side. You got to find some way to get some consistency because the slider is filthy, but it has to play off the fastball. And then when you can't throw the slider for a strike, people just sit dead red fastball. And I don't know that he gets enough sink on that fastball either. But that's a concern with me with him is that for 3 years this has kind of been who he is. Walks a lot of people, strikes out a lot of guys. Got to find a way. I don't know if it's just something mechanically, something with the plant foot, with the landing foot. There's something that's just not quite right. Evan Sierra kind of been up and down, been a consistent strike thrower, but he was hit a little bit last night. 2 innings pitch, allows 4 hits. UAB had 6 on the night, 4 of them come in the 2 innings of Sierra's on the mound. 3 runs, 2 of them earned. Of course, 1 of them unearned due to that error. It's short, gets to 1 strikeout. Faced more hitters than anybody on the Bulldog pitching staff last night. 11 batters faced. Brock Tapper comes in, a hitless, scoreless inning for him. He strikes out 1, gets a pair of flyouts. Very efficient night for him. Tyson Harden, as I mentioned, the best outing he has had to date, and that's encouraging to see. Hopefully he can keep that up. 2 innings pitched, 1 hit, 2 strikeouts, and we talked about the sinker. He faced 6 hitters, right? He struck out 2 of them, so there's 4 remaining, right? And 3 of those 4 end up being ground balls. So maybe their sinking action's working for him there. And then Aaron Nixon, a perfect 2 innings for him, 2 Ks. No hits, no runs, no walks, no hit by pitches. Attaboy Aaron. It's a good effort there, and happy to see it. Offensively, State, not a masterpiece by any stretch, but State pounds out 10 hits, scores 7 runs in the ballgame. Amani Larry, 1 for 4 with a run scored, an RBI. Colton Ledbetter, 2 for 5, very quiet 2 for 5, even though he had the home run, right? 2 RBI. 2 runs scored. Hunter Hines 1 for 5, and of course his 1 is that single he hammered to right through the shift. Dakota Jordan goes 1 for 3 with a couple of walks. You take that every day. 3 RBI for him. Run scored. Luke Hancock 1 for 3, also a run scored and a walk and an RBI. Sweet Offer goes 0 for 5. But it was a really, it's like you look at it and say, you know what? Hey, either you get a hit or you don't. I would not be the least bit hesitant to put Slate right back in the lineup, because he absolutely tattooed some baseballs last night. He just missed a couple home runs. Kellum Clark 1 for 4, had that double he hammered early in the ballgame, had a pair of strikeouts. The lefty-lefty matchup is tough for him and Hunter, it really is. Connor Hyzak goes 0 for 1 during his time. But nevertheless, Bryce Chance 1 for 3, 2 runs scored for him. It's good to see Bryce back. It really is. Lane Forsythe 2 for 4 in the ball game. The 1 strikeout, put the ball in play 3 out of 4 times. And again, we got to clean some things up defensively. It's like beginning of the year it was terrible, and all of a sudden things got better. Now all of a sudden we're regressing a little bit there at shortstop. And last year Lane just 4 errors on the year, but it has not been good this year. We're all seeing the same thing. You can't defend it. We got to have better play there, for sure. State 1 error in the ball game, and that's the one. UAB had 2. And of course, it's the ball that's thrown away, and then of course the cutoff situation there too. But hey, we win. We're now 20-14. We get a nice day of practice today. Get a nice day of practice tomorrow, and we'll welcome Ole Miss to town. We'll preview that series in its entirety for Friday's show. But for now, of course, we're going to take advantage of the fact that we were able to get some good innings from the bullpen last night. And just, again, after the 4th inning, UAB had one base runner the last 5 innings of the game. And I think sometimes that stuff gets lost because, hey, that's their job, right? Is to get those guys out. But it's been such a challenge for us. It really has been such a challenge. And I think getting Nixon back to form is huge. Tyson Harding perhaps tinkering a little bit, maybe finding something's big. Brock Tapper's a guy that's been willing to compete the whole time he's been here. And Sierra has too. It has kind of got to him a little bit, But again, the final 5 innings, the only base runner they have is that 2-out bunt, and then we erase him on a caught stealing. So there was no offensive threat in the second half of this ball game. And one thing that I'll tell you, when you don't score in the final 5 innings of a ball game, chances of you winning are pretty slim, really slim. But good job by the Bulldog bullpen. Hopefully they can keep that up. Bulldog bullpen was outstanding, of course, against Alabama because you had Nate the Great out there handling things. But all of a sudden, you got Nate back there and you got Nixon, so you've got your natural closer and you've got a long relief guy that could also close a ball game if necessary. So maybe some things are starting to happen here. Maybe. I'll tell you what's interesting, too, is I laugh about stuff, too. It's like there are some people, and listen, we're all frustrated when things don't go well. I got a little more skin in the game than most, but the reality of it is that, when things don't go well, it's easy for us to get upset with each other. Last week, of course, we go beat Grambling. Oh, it's just Grambling. Yeah, you're right. It's just Grambling. It is. And we beat them 21-2, like an SEC team would. And then let's see if we can do it against SEC competition. Well, then we go to Tuscaloosa and we win that series 2-1. Of course, all anybody want to talk about is the one we got beat terribly in. You didn't think we'd go over there and sweep, right? And now we've gone to beat UAB, and it's like, hey, it's UAB. They won 10 games this year. We should win that game. Like, well, we got to win. Well, we've won 4 or 5. Okay, we can't go back and replay those other games. All I know is in the last 5 ball games, State has played really well with one exception. And that was that ball game against Alabama on Friday where we had 3 hits in the ball game. We walked the ballpark. It was a stretch there. We had 7 walks with 2 1/3 innings thrown. It's terrible. So my hope is maybe we're starting to find some consistency, and we need to. Super Bulldog Weekend coming in. Obviously, we need to take this series from Ole Miss, who's struggling. And they have played better baseball than us for much of the season. Their bullpen issue, that's the thing you look at now. Their bullpen looks a little thinner, and ours looks to be improving a bit because we're getting some guys healthy. We need to find a way to win it. Then all of a sudden you got Southern, the University of Southern U, from Baton Rouge, and then we go to Auburn. An Auburn team is kind of struggling. And so we got to get fat here in the next 2 weeks. We got to get fat. There's no question about it. If we're going to make a run, and they're going to head to start at Alabama, you need to take these next 2 series, and you need to go to Tennessee with some momentum. But if this is going to happen for us, it's really got to happen here in the next 2 weeks. And it feels so much like last year, where it's like we're just chasing the season. And after we won that series at Oxford last year, we're all thinking, okay, we're good. We just need to win the games we're supposed to, and we'll be okay. And then we didn't. We didn't. We go to Missouri, went on Friday, and think, okay, one more, and we can take this series, possibly get a sweep. We didn't win another SEC game the rest of the year. And so this year, it kind of feels in some respects like that, where there's just no margin for error, and everything just kind of hangs there so precariously. It's like, hey, we've got some talent. We just got to go out there and execute and perform at a high level and win the games we're supposed to win. Simple as that. Our time for today's Top 10 list brought to you by CloseWithBlair.com. Blair Chandler is my friend, your friend, a friend to all those in need. Recently found out Blair is now top 1% ratio in the country, close ratio 3 years in a row. That doesn't happen by accident. You need somebody that knows what they're doing, and that's Blair Chandler. You need a guy that understands that your situation may not be like everybody else's. He has seen it all and done it all. So maybe perhaps you've tried before, and your loan's been turned down. Get with a guy like Blair Chandler with 21 years of experience. There's a reason it's called CloseWithBlair.com. It's because he is a closer. CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR.com. Mention to him you heard about him on the Boneyard. He's going to pay for your appraisal. That's a nice little benefit there just for being a listener. A lot of fees associated with getting the mortgage done. Works for Fairway Mortgage, not some subprime lender. You're going to be dealing with a professional working for a professional company. Give them a call or text today at 601-500-2344. Again, at 601-500-2344. And let him know. You heard about him on the Boneyard. All right, our friend Gordon Griffin reached out. We've had a lot of new suggestions here as of late, and I've got a series of things that we're going to start on here pretty soon. I don't know when we started. Maybe we start on Monday. But kind of give us a chance to raise our fist to the gods of rock. But Gordon had a couple of ideas. I'm going to knock out one of his today. Top 10 concept albums. And people say, Steve, what's a concept album? Well, the concept album is basically there's a one prevailing theme throughout the album. It's a story. Now, recently, one of the more successful concept albums that didn't make my list, one of my favorite bands of all time, it's Shinedown. Their album, Attention, Attention, it's a concept album. And it starts with an individual goes and sits down, walks across the floor and sits down. And then the song Devil comes on, you know, Devil's in the next room. And then you get through the end of it, and all of a sudden this person that wanted to end their life has rediscovered they have a lot of things to live for. And the song Get Up is amazing. It is. It's a great album. It is. But that's what it's about. So it's like every song is connected in this story. And some of the songs we're going to talk about today, you're going to think, oh, I didn't really know that. So if you don't really know the full catalog, maybe you can't fully appreciate that. So top 10 concept albums. And again, from start to finish, it's a story. And the best thing to do when I listen to these albums, I listen to them in their entirety. All right, number 10, one of the greatest showmen, probably in my generation, and back a little bit, certainly in my lifetime. It's David Bowie. We're going with the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. That's your number 10 album. And we're going to go with the American classic, Suffragette City. I guess he was living in America then. I think he was in New York then. Suffragette City. That's your number 10 song. And I think one of the things that I respect the most about David Bowie, of course he's passed away now, is David was the guy that found recovery. And he talked extensively and very openly about that. That, hey, I know that if I drink alcohol, I'm going to lose everything that I have. Here's what's going to happen. And there's some videos out there of him on YouTube talking about his alcoholism that I even a guy that's in late-term sobriety, I look at this and I'm inspired by that. All right, number 9, one of my favorite albums of this generation, because I'm from the 1900s, so I consider this maybe my youngest kid's generation, maybe. He loves this album. I love it too. And it is wonderful from start to finish. Absolutely beautiful from start to finish. Now, I picked a deeper track off of this album. I know many of you love this album too, because when I've mentioned the band My Chemical Romance on this show before, it's like people's antennas go up. They light up. Oh, Steve, I love MCR. I do too. I love them. The album The Black Parade is a modern-day concept album. The writing and storytelling in this is excellent. I would encourage you to just basically turn it on, let it play. Listen to this album in its entirety. The song we're going to go with is Famous Last Words. And it's one of those songs, too. It's like, it's a relationship type song. And apparently that the love interest of the main character fell in love with somebody else. And there's a part where he talks about that. Where's your heart? I know that I can make you stay, but where's your heart? And so there's a lot of passion and power behind all this. And it's not just in this song, but in every song on this album, you can really tell that they put a lot of time and effort into this to tell this amazing story. But again, Famous Last Words from My Chemical Romance is Welcome to the Black Parade is number 9. Number 8, going back, this used to be the songwriter's songwriter. Everybody talked about this guy. Everybody. Had some huge hits. We're talking Jackson Browne's Running on Empty. We're going to use a title track from that song, from that album. If you've seen Forrest Gump, you've heard Running on Empty. And chances are, if you're my generation, you heard it a million times growing up. Running on Empty is a song that still holds up today. This album still holds up today. One of you young bucks that are looking for like somebody to impress your parents, get into some Jackson Browne. Number 7, and you knew this would probably be on here at some point. It's Rush's 2112. Incredible album. It is. It's one of those albums too. It feels like a roller coaster. It does. A lot of these concept albums, you have stories and there's like a little thing in between each song. This one is just one of those deals. You turn it on and Geddy Lee and those boys just kind of take you for a ride. Could have gone a lot of different directions here. This is a prog album, so there's a lot of long songs, but we went with The Passage to Bangkok as your number 7 track from Rush. Number 6, and I know right now you Rush fans are going to be messaging me, Steve, how could you put Rush all the way at 7? Well, I'm not a big Rush guy. So there. Number 6, it's Iron Maiden. Oh, you didn't know they did a concept album? Yeah, well, get up out of your chair, right? Let's get up, Grandpa. Let's put on some real rock. Let's get our rock fingers in the air. Get those devil horns up. It's Iron Maiden. 7th son of a 7th son. We're going to go with Can I Play with Madness? But this album is one of Bruce Dickinson's best. Absolute best. Bruce Dickinson vocally absolutely kills it on this album. And of course, you had Stranger in a Strange Land and Wasted Years. And so it's like all of a sudden Iron Maiden had been this cultural phenomenon, mainly in Europe. And then all of a sudden they hit MTV, and Run to the Hills all of a sudden kind of introduced them to American teenagers. And by the time that Somewhere in Time came out, the very first time I heard that opening riff of Wasted Years, I'm like, where has this been? And all of a sudden you go back and you look, and I actually have an Iron Maiden tattoo. Maybe you didn't know that. I have a Killer's tattoo on my left arm. But Iron Maiden's Can I Play with Madness, your number 6 track today. And number 5, I listened to this album a lot on road trips. Number 1, the musicianship is outstanding. The story is phenomenal. And I also saw them play in Jackson, Mississippi with many of you with suicidal tendencies. We're talking Queensryche. Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime is perhaps the best modern rock concept album of my lifetime. I'm very biased, and I'll be honest with you. When Queensryche first hit the scene, I really wasn't, I don't know about these guys. And then somebody loaned me the album The Warning on cassette. And I was like, you know what, maybe they're okay. And then I went back and listened to Take Hold the Flame from the self-titled album, and I was hooked. And when Rage for Order came out, I went and bought that. The very first Queensryche CD I'd ever bought. But when Operation Mindcrime came out, I didn't know at the time, when I was just a teenager, that this is an album that I'd still be listening to over 30 years later. A fantastic album. It is an absolute masterpiece. Michael Walton, Chris DeGarmo, absolutely phenomenal. Randy Jackson on bass, got Rockingfield on drums, and of course the incomparable Jeff Tate on vocals. I could have gone a lot of different directions here. We could have gone with Eyes of a Stranger, which closes the album. It's fantastic. We could have gone with The Mission, incredible song, very powerful, passionate song. Could have gone with I Don't Believe in Love, But I Do. Could have gone with Anita Lies, song about addiction, but instead I went with Speak. I love the opening riff of this. This is one of those songs, too, that really gets me going. And there's so many great songs on this. I just think this is one of those albums, I can't just listen to one song. I've got to afford myself the opportunity to listen to the album in its entirety. And I do. When I travel, sometimes I put it on. I have actually listened to it back-to-back before. Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime. The song is Speak. Revolution Calling's one of my favorites in that album, too. But number 4, saw this guy in Tupelo a while back with the homie Sam Denton. First time I'd ever seen him live. It's a shame that's the case. But it's Alice Cooper, going back to 1972, the year of my birth. It's Welcome to My Nightmare. We're going to go with the title track from that one, too. And they've made a sequel to that, too. Welcome to, with the number 2, My Nightmare. We're going Welcome to My Nightmare off the 72 album. If you have never seen Alice Cooper perform live, you owe it to yourself to go, whether you know the songs or not. It is an absolute riot. Absolute riot. It's so incredibly well done. Everything they do, the musicianship is outstanding, but also it's just one of these deals where there's so much going on stage. It's entertaining. It's theater. You owe it to yourself to go. Anytime Alice Cooper comes to your neck of the woods, go and check it out. All right, number 3, A band I'm not really big on, but I'll tell you this. You kind of have to respect it. The movie was big. The album was big. It's The Who's Tommy. And there's Anne Margaret, of course, in that baked bean scene that's still so weird to me all these years later. Dave Murray, a huge Who guy. I'm not. Roger Daltrey's voice has always kind of gotten on my nerves. I know Pete Townshend's an incredible musician. Keith Moon is as well. But there was always something about The Who that I just never really connected with. I know many of you did. I do think the song My Generation is amazing. It's timeless. But this is basically a rock opera. And Pinball Wizard, of course, about Tommy, a kid that, mom had an affair and the kid knew about the philandering. Dad gets kicked out of the house and he kind of becomes reclusive and becomes this angsty teen, and Pinball kind of becomes his outlet. So it's a pretty crazy album. It is. But again, it's worthy of your time. I would watch it before I would listen to it in the car because there's a lot of craziness in that movie. All right, number 2. I got a good friend of mine. This will make him really happy because he's probably thinking, I bet Steve doesn't realize this is a concept album. But no, you're wrong. It is. It's the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, right? Fantastic. A lot of timeless classics on this one. I could have gone a lot of different directions here. Absolutely could. But I thought about all of you. It's with a little help from my friends because I get by with a little help from my friends. And as your good friend and host, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for your support all the years. And it doesn't, not just with the show, but with social media, with genespage.com, buying books. Man, I've had a lot of things going on. You guys have been absolute aces for me. And so thank you. Number 1, I don't know how it couldn't be. I don't know if you could make a case that this wasn't number 1. If you think differently, message me because I would like to know. And maybe it's because this is back in my drug using days, but and I've been retired from it a long time, so I'm not advocating that. But I remember watching The Wall, and that the shave scene really bothered me. And then I remember going, high as a kite to see that, like at the planetarium, and you see the hammers walking, all that kind of stuff, and it's interesting. But it's Pink Floyd's The Wall. Incredible concept album. Incredible. It's an incredible story. And so I'm eager to hear some dissenting opinions because I will die on this hill that Pink Floyd The Wall is the greatest concept album of all time. And we're going to go with Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 because there are 2 parts on the album. Because people say, oh, it's another brick in the wall. Well, there's Part 1, Part 2. It's Part 2 is the one that became famous. Hey, teachers, leave those kids alone. Because all we are is another brick in the wall. It's a great album. It is. I don't listen to a ton of Pink Floyd. I know Comfortably Numb is on here and Hey You, and there's just so much on there. It's such a wild ride, man. It is. And even if you're clean and sober, it's still a wild ride. So that's our top 10 concept albums. And again, we get a chance to mention Shinedown in there too. That's a good one too. If you haven't listened to Attention, be sure and check it out. Planet Zero is out now, and there's kind of some concept-y things with that one too. But Attention is a concept album from start to finish. So be sure and check those guys out. I tell you, I've had some good reaction from you guys about the new rock band list we put out here a couple weeks ago. The band Sleep Theory out of Memphis. They released a new single. We talked about that, the song Numb. They're going to release a reimagined version, which is kind of stripped down and makes it even more heartfelt. But that's a band you need to get behind. Of course, if you hadn't done so, go download Anger Management from Storage 24. Mississippi's own Storage 24. Last time I looked, they were number 3 on the independent rock charts. Number 3 song. Pushing for number 1. So excited for Fred and all the guys there. But again, get out and enjoy some live music whenever you can. I know it's so easy nowadays because everything is so readily available, but there's nothing quite like being there. And so I encourage you, when you can be there, go be there. Listen, Ani and I went and saw Whitesnake together. We went to 13 shows together that year. At the end of the year, I said, what was your favorite show? He said, Daddy, Whitesnake, those guys are real rock stars. And they are. And so get out and go enjoy music with your kids. You'll be glad you did. And don't do anything you shouldn't do. Just go be a parent. You're not there as a friend. You're there as a parent. But the reality of it is that live music kind of brings us together. So I encourage you, as always, get out, buy music, download music, support the artists that you love, because you never know when they're going to stop touring or stop performing or stop releasing music. And there's so many times in our life, like if I'd known this was the last time I had to see him, I would have gone. And you didn't go. All right, next segment of the show brought to you as always by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. You've heard about them. If you haven't been by to procure some Mississippi State merchandise from them, you're missing out. Bully Shop has been completely renovated. Everything is upstairs now. No longer in the textbook business. But you can find the greatest selection of Mississippi State merchandise in the known universe. There may be some Martians out there that have some state gear on. You know they probably would. We are the cool kids. Outfit your family in the latest of Mississippi State fashions. You can decorate your home, your office, your pet, your vehicle, whatever you want. Miss Kathy Brown does an outstanding job of keeping the latest and greatest in Mississippi State merch available to you. If you can't make it to town to see their smiling faces, visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net and use promo code BSR. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. You'll be glad you did. Again, that's campusbookmart.net, promo code BSR. All right, let's take a look around the Southeastern Conference. Very busy night. All 14 teams were in action last night. Maybe not the night that some people hoped, shall we say. Obviously, Mississippi State took care of business last night. Arkansas absolutely destroyed Little Rock. That was a game for a little while, and then it wasn't, right? So, pretty crazy. Let me jump down there and find that. Arkansas wins 21-5. Little Rock actually had 11 hits in the night. Arkansas had 13 but scored 21 runs. Sounds like walks were an issue, right? It's not just us. Probably one of the more surprising results of the week, the Memphis Tigers, 11-9 winners. They hit back-to-back-to-back home runs. Ole Miss enters the ninth inning with a 9-7 lead, chance to close it out. They give up a single and a two-run shot to tie it, and then another solo shot the other way to give Memphis the lead, and then another towering fly ball to right field to give them a little breathing room. 11-9 winners of Memphis Tigers. Ole Miss falls to 18-14 overall. Missouri, 10-1 winners over Missouri State. Missouri's an interesting team. They get that loud sweep of Tennessee to open SEC play. They've won one SEC game since then. South Carolina, 7-2 winners over South Carolina Upstate. No real surprise there. Gamecocks, probably the team that maybe I misjudged the most this year that's not Mississippi State. I wasn't sold on them. I am now, after seeing them play in person, and Ethan Petrie about to set the freshman home run record at South Carolina. They're 29-4. We own one of those wins, but 29-4, 9-2 in the league. A big series coming up for sure. UTSA goes into College Station, Texas, and they beat Texas A&M 5-1. Nothing fluky about this deal either. The Roadrunners with 13 hits, they hold A&M to 4 hits in the ballgame. You go out there and you throw strikes against A&M, they're going to get themselves out. 5-7 in the league, 20-13 overall. LSU in a bit of a tussle with Tulane for a while. And then they get into that bullpen, and it's basically batting practice the rest of the way. It was a 5-5 ball game. LSU wins going away 11-5. Tigers pound out 19 hits. The margin should have been larger. But 11-5 is your final. Of course, 7-3, Mississippi State beats UAB. Vanderbilt, 14-2 winners over North Alabama. North Alabama managed just 2 hits in the ball game. Vanderbilt, 13. Alabama absolutely clubbed Southern Miss. 13 runs on 13 hits and a 13-0 ball game in Tuscaloosa. Will Hodo with a big night for the Crimson Tide. In Atlanta, Auburn makes the trip over, and Georgia Tech beats them 12-8 in a bit of a wild ball game. But Tech kind of led throughout, even though Auburn made it interesting. 25 hits combined in the ball game. Auburn now just 19-13, and that's Mississippi State's opponent next weekend. We'll make that trip over to the Plains and provide you full coverage over at genespage.com. But 12-8 winners, Georgia Tech. Not a good night all the way around in the state of Georgia is Clemson, the Clemson Tigers, who go into Athens and beat Georgia 8-1. Georgia now 18-15 on the year, 3-9 in the league. Of course, a couple of loud wins this past weekend over Kentucky. Can't maintain it though. 9 hits in the ball game for Clemson. Georgia commits an error, but when there's a 7-run margin, it never boils down to that. In an abbreviated game, Tennessee takes care of Eastern Kentucky 14-2. Still not quite sure what to think of this Tennessee team. I hope they figured out maybe the Monday after we go down there and check those guys out. But that's in 2 weeks. We'll have Ole Miss at home this week. We travel to Auburn and travel to Tennessee. So our next 3 opponents have a losing record in conference. Man, if we could find a way to go up there and get a game from Tennessee, that's probably the best we could hope for. But the way they're pitching it right now, it's been interesting. They haven't been nearly as dominant as people expected. Florida with a nice win over Florida State in Gainesville. That's a 5-3 ball game. Really felt like Florida controlled it throughout there. But hits kind of came at a premium, just 10 hits combined between the two teams. Both teams commit errors. And Florida continues to kind of roll here, 28-6, currently ranked 3rd in the country, and 9-3 in the league. We knew Florida would be better. I really thought Florida would be the second best team in the East, and they are. But it's not behind Tennessee, it's behind Vanderbilt. And you begin to think about what Tennessee has coming up, having to play Vanderbilt and some others that could get some separation here between Florida and Tennessee. Of course, Florida goes into Knoxville and takes that weekend series. They get shelled in Game 3, but they did enough. Kentucky and Louisville was postponed. That would be an interesting game. 2 top 15 teams. Louisville ranked 10th in the country and Kentucky 12th. But that game's been postponed. So interesting night of action. There will only be 2 games tonight. And again, I question the wisdom, if you're Ole Miss, of playing 2 non-conference games the week of the baseball Egg Bowl series. But they shouldn't have to exert a lot of effort tonight as they take on Alcorn State. And again, Ole Miss 18-14 overall, but tough loss last night. Arkansas will host Little Rock again tonight, and probably be a Johnny Holstaff ball game for them. Big weekend for them with Tennessee coming in. Again, you begin to ask yourself, especially both of these staffs have had some injury issues on the mound, and it really stresses the fact when you got to cover 45 innings. So if you're looking for some college baseball to watch tonight, you watch some games. Shouldn't be very good games, but nevertheless, there will be some college baseball to be had tonight, and you can kind of get a look at Ole Miss if you hadn't already. Mississippi State's next opponent. But look at the Rebels here real quickly. We'll give a full update on these guys and preview them. You start looking at that they've lost 4 of the last 6. And that dates back to the Sunday game when they were walked off in the 9th at A&M. They beat Memphis, and then the Arkansas series, of course, they lose 2 out of 3. They win the middle game 7-4, then lose to the Memphis Tigers last night. So they've lost, again, 4 of 6. Before that, they get that win at A&M. They had lost 4 in a row. They get swept by Florida, lose game 1 against A&M. So, it has not been a great stretch for the Rebels. And again, earlier this year, we're talking about how much more competitive baseball they've played. Loss is still a loss, but it does appear that State is getting better, and that perhaps Ole Miss is regressing a little bit. And if you read some of the social media commentary from Ole Miss baseball fans, and they've got some people that love baseball as much as we do, just hadn't had as much cheer about over the years as we have. But your defending national champions really, really struggling right now. And we talked about how the margin in some of these games were somewhat favorable. But, you lose to Arkansas 11-2. You bounce back to beat them 7-4. Then you lose 6-4. You lose 11-9. There's been some bullpen issues. And that's been really the real issue with Ole Miss. Obviously, not having Hunter Elliott available really makes them a vulnerable team on weekends because everybody has to move up a day, and Jack Doherty has really struggled really struggled. And we go back and look at these the opening games of SEC series. I don't know if you're familiar with this. Ole Miss is 0-4. 0-4. Lose to Vanderbilt 12-2. Lose to Florida 9-7. Lose to A&M 8-6, and lose to Arkansas 11-2. So 0-4 in opening games of SEC series, and that's so important for State to be able to go out there and take advantage of that. We need a great start from Cade Smith. I don't know if we throw Colby Holcomb or come back with Nate or throw Nixon, but we've got to go all in to win game one. You got to get that first one. You can't win the series if you don't win one to start. So you don't want to go into Sunday and need to try to salvage a game. We need to find a way to win that Friday game, and with the crazy crowd that's expected to be there on Saturday, it's going to be incredible. And it'd be a shame to set an NCAA record and lose that ball game. And you start thinking to yourself, too, if you can find a way to win on Saturday, and I have no idea what our pitching rotations are going to look like. I'm sure we'll announce it tomorrow. Do you send Gerangelo back out there? Do you use Bradley Lofton? You don't know. But we feel confident in what we've got with Landon Gartman, and we know that he will compete in the strike zone. We also know that probably 2 times through the order is about the best we can hope. I mean, the numbers are what the numbers are, right? That's not really a matter of opinion. I mean, you've got some proof there that he is best the first 2 times through the order. The third time, you're really kind of stretching him a little bit and pressing your luck. But, if we can get a lead in that ball game, maybe you let him eat up another inning or two if you can. But, again, I'm eager to talk about this series and eager to kind of see what happens with the Rebels tonight. I mean, I suspect tonight will be one of these 10-run rule affairs. Mike Bianco's a good coach. Listen, and I get it, too. Like somebody told me yesterday, Steve, if they don't go down and win that series at LSU last year, they don't make the tournament, Mike Bianco may be fired. And so you look at, other than a 6-week stretch there at the end of the year, it's been a very difficult and disappointing run for Ole Miss the last few years. It just hadn't been able to get it done. Now, before we get together again, there will be some SEC baseball played head-to-head. Kentucky and LSU will open their series Thursday at 6 p.m. That means Paul Skeens on the mound against kind of a gritty Kentucky lineup. Kentucky doesn't have elite starting pitching. They can kind of mix and match a little bit, but it's tough to go to Alex Box Stadium and win. But this is a legit series. If you're Kentucky, you got to go get one, right? We've talked extensively about this. Kentucky's 9-3 in the league. You get to 14 wins, you're making the tournament. You get to 15, you're just about guaranteed to make the tournament. And so Kentucky doesn't need to win the series. They just need to go down there and get a game, because you've got that A&M series coming up. You got some other series that we believe are winnable. Of course, Georgia was winnable too, and you didn't do it. So Nick's got to get those guys going. And then Missouri will be at A&M. And so somebody is going to win a series, assuming that they play all 3 games. And A&M, of course, struggling a little bit here as of late. But they were able to get that series against Auburn last weekend. So A&M not an elite team. Neither is Missouri. And, as far as we go, we don't play Missouri, but we're kind of competing with Missouri to make sure we make the SEC tournament. And so I think your rooting interest here is you root for I don't know if we can catch A&M. We're going to play A&M head-to-head, but I think the reality of it is you root for a split and hope that A&M gets 2 and Missouri gets 1. Because I think in the end you could kind of control your own destiny with the Aggies because you get them here. Perhaps you could catch them then and then get in on a tiebreaker. But it's a shame that we're in this situation, that we're kind of like looking at the standings and saying, okay, what's the least we can do? I mean, making the SEC tournament should be the absolute bare minimum for Mississippi State. That should never be something that we aspire to. We just want to make the tournament. No. At Mississippi State, we expect to compete for top 8 national seeds, and this is not a top 8 national seed team. I will tell you this, though. In the event that we can string some wins together here late, because we've got to get to 13 to have a chance. 13 SEC wins. You have 3 right now. With 6 weekends left, you got to go just a little bit better than 500. You got to go 10-8 to get to 13. Can't lose any non-conference games, right? And you shouldn't. But that would probably keep your RPI in the top 30, potentially in the top 25. And so a top 25 RPI with 13 SEC wins, considering some of the people in our conference, it's doable. And there's a good chance you get in. If you get to 14, you're absolutely in. But you get to 13, I think you get in. And so, as bad as things have been, there is still the possibility that we make a regional somewhere. And that's what makes this weekend so important. You start thinking, okay, where can we come up with 10 SEC wins? We say, okay, well, we should beat Ole Miss, but that's never a given, right? I mean, Ole Miss has got talented guys too. We're playing at home. We have owned this series as of late. State is 18-5 in the last 23 against Ole Miss. And if you don't think that matters in their clubhouse, you're kidding yourself. Because it starts thinking, we just can't win against these guys. We just can't figure it out. And so if we go out there and throw strikes, get into their bullpen, we should take the series. So let's say you take the series. That gives you 2 right there. Well, now all of a sudden, you just need 8 more. You go to Auburn next weekend, and you take that series. And listen, Butch and those guys are going to pitch it pretty well. And we got to throw strikes. But let's say you get that one. Now all of a sudden, you got 6 left. You got 4 weekends left to pick up 6 wins. And you start looking at the schedule, and you think, okay, it's not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. But you got to go to Tennessee. Let's say you scratch out 1 there. Then all of a sudden you got 5. Arkansas comes in, and that's been kind of an up and down deal too. Arkansas's kind of had our number here, but we get them in Starkville. They're not an elite team. I know they're ranked really high, but they're not a dominant team. Let's say you can get 1, maybe 2 there. LSU, it's tough down there, man. And maybe you can win the Sunday game. You just got to avoid getting swept there. And then you bring in A&M. And it could be eerily reminiscent of that 2018 year when we had to go play Florida, or Florida had to come in here. We ended up sweeping that series. But all of a sudden you start doing the math here, and you can see there's games to be played. And again, you got to find a way to get 10. Let's say you get 4 the next 2 weekends. You pick one up at Tennessee, you need 5, and you got 3 weekends left to do it. We're going to have to upset somebody. Or we got to pick up a sweep somewhere. It'd be nice to do it this weekend, right? Wouldn't that be incredible? Like if you swept this weekend and then you win next weekend. I don't expect State to sweep this weekend. I don't know that State's capable of sweeping anybody without their help. But you often wonder a little bit about the psyche of the Ole Miss baseball team. Does it become a self-fulfilling prophecy that we're supposed to lose to Mississippi State? That's why I think winning Friday is so important. And with the crowd there on Saturday, you never know how our young guys are going to react. But you also got to think about their young guys having to play in front of the largest college baseball crowd on campus in the country. It's going to be an incredible day. My honest belief is if State wins Friday, Saturday, State will sweep. I still don't expect it, but it's a possibility. But again, those are the numbers that we're looking at. Find a way to get to 13 wins. I think anything more than that, you're really asking a lot. But again, you need 10 more. You pick up 3 this weekend. You got 5 weekends to get 7. All of a sudden, that doesn't seem to be quite so daunting. And we talk about the non-conference numbers. State now 20-14 overall. So you're 17-5 in non-conference. And, of course, some of that goes back to that Frisco weekend, that Frisco Classic. But you're 17-5 in a non-conference. And, of course, you'll play Ole Miss again in a non-conference affair in the Governor's game. But, again, kind of running it down here. Next Tuesday, Southern University, that should be a win. Governor's game, that's a toss-up. It always is. And then you get Memphis and Starkville on May 9th, and then North Alabama right before the A&M series. And so you start running through this, and you think, hey, State should run the table with maybe the exception of the Governor's game. Every one of those other games, State should be a huge favorite in, and it should be an abbreviated ball game. So you shouldn't have any non-conference losses. And even if you lose to Ole Miss, I mean, it's like the RPI works just like it does in an SEC game, right? So, you want to win that game, obviously, but it wouldn't be necessarily detrimental. Wouldn't be the end of the world if you didn't. You got to be able to get those SEC wins. But any chance that when you play Ole Miss, you got to want to get a dub. But when you start running through the numbers here, you realize, I don't know how probable it is, but it's possible. and I don't just mean mathematically. I think being realistic about this, that State should win these next two series. You should beat Ole Miss, and you should beat Auburn. And, of course, Alabama and Auburn to get together this weekend, and you just never know how that thing's going to work out. I guess, our rooting interest is we're going to root against the sweep. We just need those guys to split. We don't need anybody to run off and leave us here. Looking at the SEC standings, they haven't changed, obviously, since Monday. But, what's realistic for State? You put some distance between yourself and Ole Miss, because let's say you get a split this weekend, when all of a sudden you're 2 games up over Ole Miss, and depending on what happens with Georgia, you could be ahead of those guys too. And then next week, you go to Auburn. Let's say they split. All of a sudden, you could catch them in the standings and move ahead of them and give yourself a little breathing room. But you got some difficult series left to play, but you also have some very winnable series left to work with. We've got to take advantage. As I mentioned earlier in the show, we have got to win the games we're expected to win. And there were many people that said, hey, I don't know if we can expect anything at this point on the SEC weekends. And, we get a dub over South Carolina, which looks even better in hindsight because they should have taken a series against LSU. And you go on the road and you take the series from Alabama, which has kind of become commonplace for us. But the reality of it is it doesn't erase what we did the first part, the first couple of weekends. And so we've got to go pick up a game somewhere. We've got to find a way to get a sweep against somebody. It'd be great to do it this weekend. It'd be great to do it next weekend. But we have to win these next 2 series. If we don't win these next 2 series, the best we can ever hope for is just kind of squeeze in the Hoover, and then that'd be the end of the season because we would not advance beyond that unless somehow we won the SEC tournament. I just think it's going to happen. I don't know if we have the pitching depth to make that happen, and neither do you, right? It's not like it's some hot take. But the reality of it is that, our backs are against the wall now. We've got to get out and go play some baseball. And it does appear that we are improving as a team and improving as a pitching staff, and can't afford to let down this weekend. It's going to be an emotional weekend at Duty Noble Field, and I'm so overjoyed this thing is going to be at home and at Super Bulldog Weekend because the crowds are going to be huge. And you know what happens sometimes when that maroon and white chant gets going, sometimes you will the Bulldogs to victory. So when you come this weekend, be sure, don't just come to be entertained, come to be a part of the ball game. Come to be there for your Bulldogs and ensure that they get the dub. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by Portico. Portico, an outstanding place to live. I've told you guys many times before, if I was moving to Starkville now, Portico is where I would set up my residence. 1.1 miles away from the Mississippi State campus. Close enough for convenience, far enough away to have a little privacy. Be sure and go check them out next time you're in town. You can give yourself a self-guided tour. Turn off 82, 1, and 12 like going to campus. The very first right is Pat Station Road. Go through that 4-way stoppers, Portico on the right. You can start with a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home and go all the way up to a 4-bedroom, 4-bath home. You'll be glad you did because you can get anything in between. If you need a custom build, Carrie and those guys can take care of you. Give my friend, your friend, Mississippi State friends, Brooks Bryan, a call today. It's 601-416-8075. 601-416-8075. They've got plenty of people that can help you. If you need information, if you need to know about a lender, if you need to know about building information, Brooks can answer a lot of those questions, and they can help you navigate through this process of making Starkville your home, whether it be your future retirement home, your primary residence now, or perhaps your second home. We'd love to have you as a neighbor. Again, make Portico your next move. All right, last I heard is that over 21,400 tickets were out. And when we say out, that's like sold. So through season tickets or individual tickets or standing room only tickets for Saturday. That's we expect a big huge crowd on Friday too, but Saturday could prove to be a historic day, not just in Mississippi State history, but in college baseball history. Huge, absolutely huge crowd expected. As I mentioned earlier in the show, you need to prepare yourself. There's a lot going on too. I would suggest too, those of you that are able, come to the spring game and then leave your car parked there and walk over to baseball. It's not that far a walk. You're going to need the steps anyway. You can safely navigate that without much trouble, right? Now, there will be some sections for the spring game that will be closed off because they're doing some repairs at the stadium. And so when you get there and you see that, you'll just kind of understand, Oh, Steve talked about this on the show. Just doing some repairs. Everything's fine. Everything's good. We're going to play football. We're going to be good. Everybody just needs to relax. But I would, when you come and park for football, just walk. And you say, well, then I got to walk all the way back. Yeah, you do. But, maybe Dad can make that journey for you and just come back and pick everybody up. But parking is going to be an issue. Understand that before you get here, for sure. I would come early because you're going to be prepared to stay late. It's going to be a lot of people trying to get out of there. A lot of people will stay for the Brett Eldredge concert. I'm not familiar with Brett's music. I'm not a country music guy. But I know that there are some young people in this town that are very excited about this show. So understand it's going to be a long day. Now, many of you will say, you know what, I'm just coming for the ball game, Steve, and we're going to barbecue and drink some beer. I'm not staying for the concert. There will be no concert tickets sold. Your baseball ticket is your concert ticket. So by coming to the Saturday baseball game or having a ticket for entrance, you're getting a free concert. What an amazing thing. What a great concept. What a wonderful idea. We need to do this every year, whether we utilize the hump or do it on Duty Noble. And, of course, not going to be a lot of field access. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to deal with that, but we got a game to play on Sunday. And not to mention, we're not going to go out there and tear up that sacred ground, even in the name of country music. We're not going to do that. So be prepared. It'll be a unique event here at Mississippi State, and you'll be able to say you were there. And so we talk about, our place in history and things about that nature. And there are a lot of people that talk really big about their fans. And we have receipts. So you may not be aware of this, but the top 11 on-campus crowds in the history of college baseball were all at Duty Noble Field. 19 of the top 20 on-campus crowds in the history of college baseball, Duty Noble Field. The one exception was back in 18, USC played at Arkansas. They're the number 12 crowd, and it's really cute, 13,742. It is. It's really cute. The record is 15,586, and that's Ole Miss at Mississippi State back in 14, and we won that game too. For years and years and years, all we ever heard was 14,991, and we knew the number, and we've had two crowds surpass that since then. And we may shatter our own record by a few thousand. We may set a record that may never be broken because not everybody has our spot. They don't have the ability to do this. Now, a lot of people talk about, it's the biggest, crowds of all time aren't on campus, and that's true. You've played some games at some major league stadiums and things of that nature, and so people turn out for those, and tickets are very inexpensive, and there's been some big crowds, obviously, at the College World Series. But as far as like bringing everybody to our neck of the woods, there's nobody better. Mississippi State owns 23 of the top 25 largest crowds on campus in the history of college baseball. I told you about Arkansas. LSU had 13,068, set an Alex Box record earlier this year. And think about that for a second. LSU, my generation's primary rival in college baseball, the largest crowd in Alex Box Stadium history, wouldn't even make the top 20 at Duty Noble Field. So we talk about having the greatest fans in college baseball. Well, a lot of people can print a bumper sticker or put out a meme. We got numbers. Now, what we got to do now is go win ball games. And I think that's an important aspect of a bit of this. And I want to give our fans a big tip of the cap because, yes, there is a lot to be negative about. There is. There's no question about it. There's a lot. We've underachieved this year. We have. We absolutely have. And but I go back to Saturday of the Vanderbilt series. Guys, we had 12,927 people here. There wasn't no concert going on that night. Right? When Arizona State came in here, second weekend, and this is after we had dropped the game to VMI and we'd struggled against Louisiana Monroe, and Arizona State comes in. Guys, we had 14,320 people come to the ball game. That's the seventh largest on-campus crowd in the history of college baseball. So I'm not going to listen to a whole lot of criticism about our fans, right? Of course, we've got some malcontents. We got people that don't always know how to express themselves. That's true. But nobody can say that our fans have given up on this team. There are some people, obviously, that are on Facebook and things like that. Those are the outliers. But when you get 27,000 people to come to 2 games, and then you add in the whole Vanderbilt thing too. I mean, it's incredible. And then we had some good crowds for South Carolina. So a tip of the cap to all of you. Now the Bulldogs need to reward you for your faithfulness. And trust me, they want to. It's one of the things that I have noticed about this team. And, obviously we get a chance to talk to them in post game, and I go on the road, and sometimes it's just me, These kids care. There are a lot of people that say, oh, they don't understand. No, I can tell you they wear it. Win or lose, they do. And so, as I shared with you guys a couple weeks ago, it's just kind of hang in here with them. Hang in here, support the team. When we're losing, there's a million things you can find that are wrong. But you know what? As I've said before, we've won 4 or 5. And now the series that matters the most to so many people is being played this weekend at Duty Noble Field. Now, you lose the series this weekend, it's almost going to make the hill too steep to climb out of. And so we need you to come out there and be loud and proud from first pitch to last pitch. I know a lot of people want to get out there and, it's about having a cold beer and, maybe you got some Ole Miss friends that come or whatever. Listen, you guys can go play golf together. We need everybody focused on Mississippi State baseball this weekend, not just because of the fact that it's Super Bulldog Weekend, not just because of the fact that Ole Miss is in town. And listen, they're our primary rival. We've won the last 2 national championships between the 2 of us. Chance for us to get together. But this is a crucial series no matter who we're playing, because every SEC win counts the same. It doesn't matter if we were playing Tennessee this weekend or we're playing Missouri or whoever. They all count the same. A lot of people think, oh, we won the series. No. It's not about who wins series that matters. It's at the end of the year, they add up all the games you won and all the games you lost, and then they pick a champion of this league. And they rank you in the standings based on your wins. They say, well, these guys won, X number of series, so they're a great team. Every SEC game counts the same. And we can't just be satisfied with winning a series. And yes, we have to win this series. We absolutely have to. But if you can find a way to get all 3, and I'm not expecting that, but if you can find a way to get all 3, all of a sudden it makes life a little bit easier. It's not going to be an easy road by any stretch. But when you begin to do the calculations here, I'd much rather be at 6 than be at 5 when it comes to SEC wins. Of course, I'd like to be, 15. But the reality of it is we can't cry over spilled milk now. So it's kind of a call to arms here, kind of a call to action. I need Bulldog fans to listen. Wear your M over S caps. Hang in here with us. We have a lot to be proud of. This season's not over. Now, I said last week, we lose that series at Alabama, the best we're going to be able to hope for is Hoover. Even after we won a series, I thought best we're going to be able to hope for is Hoover. But now all of a sudden, when you start to see kind of how the rest of the league has played out here over the course of last week, you start realizing, maybe there's a shot. It's not a great shot, but we got a shot. We got a chance to make a regional, but we've got to go win ball games. And we need you to be there. We need you to be there to cheer this team on. Listen, nothing stinks more than making the long drive to watch a team lose. I've done that a lot in my life, mainly on the football end. I've got a job to do. I've got a responsibility to do. But a long time before I was providing team coverage, I was doing recruiting coverage, and I was still going to ball games. I wasn't a credentialed member of the media through the university back then. And we would go make these long trips. We wanted to go see them because that's our team. I don't have a Major League Baseball team, per se. I don't really watch Major League Baseball. I don't watch much NFL. I don't watch NBA hardly at all. Maybe you do. I live in the big maroon bubble, so it's all about Mississippi State for me. That's really my only sporting interest. I love college baseball, I love college football, and I can watch any SEC team play either of those sports. And, of course, I watch the Bulldog men and women basketball programs. But, one of the things that has made this baseball program so great is all of you. Because you've made it a big deal to play here. Now, granted, the players got to do their part. I mean, nobody's going to come see them play. It's always a losing team. But this is a crucial weekend. And it's clear you guys are voting with your ticket sales. And so we may all disagree about coaches. We may disagree about hitting philosophies or recruiting decisions or development here. But the bottom line is those are all details of a bigger picture. And right now, the only thing that matters is that we have a big 3-game SEC series against our arch rivals this weekend. So let's go get it done. Let's go have a good weekend and then kind of breathe some life back into our season. Because, I know. I mean, I'm in the car. I got home last night after midnight and got up at 6:30 this morning. And that's not to make it about me, but the reality of it is that, we've got a job to do. We're going to do that job. But the Diamond Dogs need our support. It's one thing that I've asked myself, too. And I, last year I didn't go to Missouri. I didn't go to A&M, and I regretted it. And people are like, Steve, you just can't justify the spending that kind of money. And maybe you're right. Because by the end of the year, nobody really wanted to read a lot of baseball content. Our baseball numbers were down considerably because people were just ready for the season to end. Let's get into football. But the thing that I think about is what message does that send to players and the families and the coaches? Well, it's like, they love me when they're winning. They come up here and give me coverage, and they interview us, and they talk about the games, and they show interest in what we're doing, and then all of a sudden we're losing, so we're not going to get coverage. Either we're a big baseball program or we're not. Do you think the guys at LSU, if they hit a rough patch, would quit covering them? Of course not. Think the guys at Arkansas would do that? They wouldn't. And so I feel like we've got a responsibility to all of you, but also, too, to these players and their families to go out there and do the job. And so we're going to be there. I'm going to be at every game the rest of the year with the exception of the A&M series. I'll be in Chattanooga, Tennessee on my anniversary trip then, and we'll have plenty of coverage. You just won't have me. And that'll be okay. I'm going to go enjoy being with the wife. And 30-year anniversary is the Ruby, so we're going to Ruby Falls. And we're going to have a great time. And then I know it's going to make her absolutely miserable that we're not watching the ball games. And it's become such a big part of my family and your family. And I remember being a kid, some of my fondest memories, and at the time I hated it. I'm from South Mississippi, so we shelled peas. We cut okra, we did that kind of stuff. And I remember, it's like my dad would want me to come help him, peel peas or whatever. And the best way to get that done was to put the ball game on. And back in those days, in the 1900s, we didn't have a lot of TV, baseball. If we were lucky enough to make it to Omaha, we'd get to see the Bulldogs play on TV. But by and large, you had to go see them play, or you heard Jim Ellis give a call. And I remember sitting there, shelling peas and listening to the Bulldogs play. And I remember going out at times with my dad. He would get outside the house and go sit on the patio and get his little Philco radio, and he'd turn it on and he'd listen to the ball game. If the Bulldogs were playing, my dad was listening. And it's been so ingrained in my family, Bulldog sports, especially Bulldog baseball, where we just poke our chest out. We can say, this is who we are. And one of the things that I think, again, that means the most is that we're a loyal fan base. We may get a little bit snippy at times, but we still support our teams, and that's really the whole focus of this segment, is our fans are doing their part. We had a nice, small crowd last night in Birmingham at UAB, but, I think we should play that at Regions, but nobody asked me. But all that said, I want to again commend our fans for hanging in here. And again, I know it's tough when people are walking the ballpark. It's frustrating because you love it. If it didn't matter, you just turn it off and go, put on Netflix and just go on with your day. But if you're like me, it stays with you. And when we lose a ball game, I probably don't say anything for an hour when I'm driving. I didn't want to talk about it. I just want to absorb it. So let's again do our part and hope for a big weekend this weekend. And again, we'll be back on Friday, and we'll recap the Wednesday and Thursday night action in the Southeastern Conference, and we'll preview the Friday series. And my hope is to be at football practice Thursday afternoon. That's the hope. Give Paul Jones a lot of credit. I think Paul's probably the only media member that's been to every spring practice. I think. But we got Dave Murray on staff. Of course, Dave's in town this week, and of course Mike Nemeth. So my wife will be around, shoot some pictures for us at the spring game. Of course, baseball. So we're excited for this weekend, and we're going to have full coverage over at genespage.com. If you hadn't done so, go over there and you can read our free content, but you should be a member, and you can discuss things with our experts at genespage.com, the Mississippi State affiliate for 247 Sports. In addition to that, go to dogpilethebook.com. I mention it on the show all the time, but I saw people that message me, don't feel like you're bothering me. I'm happy to provide the address. All of my sports books, with the exception of Stark Villains, is available at dogpilethebook.com. Stark Villains now officially sold out through the website. You'll have to find it in bookstores, and they're in limited supply. But you can get Alpha Dogs, Flim Flam, and Dogpile at dogpilethebook.com. Father's Day's coming up. Don't put that off, because if you want to get a signed or personalized copy, that takes a little time. There's a bunch of signed copies, but if it's personalized, we've got to coordinate so I can get up there and sign a bunch of those books. And so reach out at dogpilethebook.com. If you're looking for Bloomsville Leander, maybe Mother's Day's coming up too. Maybe you want to give your mom a book of poetry. Wouldn't that be sweet? You can find Bloomsville Leander at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, BooksAMillion.com, or through your local bookstore. Be sure and check that out. And that'll be out of print at some point soon too. They give me the option every year if I want to renew it. And I never wrote it for any money, but it continues to sell a little bit. So it's always nice to have that. But the reality of it is that these things don't last forever, right? And if you're looking for Stark Villains gear, you can find it at StarkVillains.com. You should. It's getting warmer outside. You need a fresh T-shirt. The mom may be surprised, Dad and the kids, and order them some Stark Villains gear at StarkVillains.com. You get that in a variety of colors. We'd love to see you sporting Stark Villains gear at Duty Noble Field, Davis Wade Stadium, and all Mississippi State's athletic venues. That's going to do it for today. We'll be back with you on Friday. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we'll make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.
Breathe in, breathe out. Get dressed, head out. Grab some friends, camp out. Get hiked up, vibe out. Take it in, let it all out. At REI Co-op, we're here for all the outs. And we want you to spend more time outside our doors and in them. Try it out, check out, then get out. REI Co-op, all out. Visit rei.com.